Nick Reinberger, this is ABC Illawarra. Attorney General Mark Dreyfus has unveiled some plans to, quote, enact sweeping changes to ban companies marketing products to children and mandate transparency about the use of personal data by artificial intelligence tools. I mean, part of that is actually destroying private information upon the request of the person that supplied it. Is that even possible in our modern era? Dr. Katina Michael is our regular spokesperson on these matters. She's honorary professor at UOW's School of Business and with the School of Computer and Information Technology at UOW and joins us now. Katina Michael, good morning.
Good morning, Nick.
Is it possible to destroy anything digitally?
It is, but it's really expensive to do so. So when consumers put up their hand and exercise their rights to tell an organisation, what data do you store on me, and especially if it's a digital tech company, I want to uphold my right for that data to be destroyed, it costs money because there are employees on the other side that actually have to investigate the query and action it off. So if everyone did that all at once, it would be difficult. But lucky for us, perhaps, some of the big tech organisations have already automated that process, so we could go into our social media account and request the deletion of our account or of all the data that's ever been stored by us voluntarily or by the company itself.
I would have thought it would be a simple matter of just pressing a button. Are you saying, but
Hopefully.
Not every company does that, and only certain of them have automated it to that extent?
Very much so, and it's multiple-pronged in the sense that we don't know what data is being stored on us all the time. We know data we've volunteered and provided publicly, for example, or privately, but we don't know how that data is being used. For example, is data that is being scraped off the web being used for automated decision-making or for some kind of artificial intelligence software application, or are our IP addresses being used? And so knowing that information is the first step, and auto-deletion, while it sounds good, is not always possible. But what these reforms are pointing at is that companies need to continuously be monitoring why they are storing data, and if there's no real reason to be storing a particular type of data on an individual, then that data should be destroyed. And that's very clear now in these new reforms.
Right. Okay. So there are some other aspects to this, particularly around children, to ban companies marketing products to children. Is that, again, a matter of pressing a button, or is it just not that simple?
It's not that simple. It's very hard, for example, to identify when a child is interacting with online services. A lot of children do break policies and gain access to software applications online that basically denote that a child should be over the age of 13 or over the age of 16 to use. I mean, YouTube requires that a user is over the age of 16, and most people don't know that. But there is YouTube for children, but it's very hard to identify who is a child. That's the first thing. But the second thing is that we're saying entities will be prohibited from targeting and directly advertising and marketing to children. They will not be able to trade in the personal information of children, whether that's on online gaming platforms, social media, or otherwise. And we define a child in Australia as anyone under the age of 18. And what's wonderful here is that we're trying to say what we are going to be doing from here on is in the best interest of a child when we're handling their personally identifiable information, and we're also going to be in sync with proposed children's online privacy codes. And these are all sweeping changes that are coming through. I've actually chaired, and so has Dr. Abbas at the University of Wollongong, the introduction of a standard on the rights and the age appropriateness of online digital systems for children and what that should look like. So companies will have to pay more attention to how they handle data of children, how they identify who is a child, and what they do on the back end. And basically, you want to see a child flourish online, use the internet, for instance, for the best that it can offer, and not see them become vulnerable members of a digital ecosystem.
Well, I suppose you have to look at the self-interest of any of these companies. If they can capture a customer at an early age, isn't that in their best interests? How hard will it be to curtail that?
Are very hard, but what we're seeing, again, through these reforms is a strengthening of enforcement powers for the Office of the Australian Information Commissioner. So what we're seeing globally, and this reform is part of Australia, coming to the global benchmarks. We've been so behind in our Privacy Act, though we've had revisions in 2017 and 2014 from the original 1998 Act. What we're saying is we've got to get with it. And so we're trying to benchmark against Europe's stricter powers, but enforcement means the companies can have fines handed down to them and penalties handed down to them. I mean, some of the global example case studies we're looking at, Epic was fined $500 million for the mishandling of data, children's data. YouTube, a couple of years ago, $170 million for the mishandling of children's data, and the list goes on and on. So we are seeing these case studies come, and I think companies will begin to be paying more attention about what the government is calling privacy by design, incorporating that into everyday practice in an organisation's development of new services.
What is the gold standard here? Is it across Europe, the kind of standard that we should be aiming for?
With respect to children, we're going to say it's the IEEE 2089 standard, which is about age-appropriate digital services online for youth, for children. And we've introduced a number of processes there that uphold the 5 rights of children based on the rights of the Convention of a Child. But in terms of Privacy Acts at the Australian level, what we're saying is we want to uplift protections, we want to provide clarity for businesses on what they have to do. And for the first time ever, small to medium organisations have been implicated on better controls of people's data. And that is completely new to the past. Okay, we have had small business exempt from the Australian Privacy Act. That is no longer. So a lot has to be done there to help organisations and SMEs know what they have to do to respond to this reform. But we're improving controls and transparency. So it's not just about providing privacy collection notices online. It's about obtaining consent and informed consent, and there's a lot of work to be done there, but it is about strengthening enforcement. And so while we saw these data breaches occur in Australia and confidence levels drop in some of our major organisations, what we're saying is here's a 3-year reform process that has taken place. The government has immediately adopted 38 of the principles that were put forward, the reforms, but 68 more to further consultation. And these are stronger responses. At least now we have a benchmark in the General Data Protection Law in Europe where we can say, well, that's what we're going towards. So at least we're now travelling in the right direction. Additionally, people can sue through tort law, a civil wrong as opposed to a criminal wrong. For example, if someone has an expectation of privacy in public and they're being filmed inappropriately by another person. We haven't had that tort law before, but these reforms will come in 2024, and it'll be encouraging, at least for Australia, in our digital economy that relies so much on digital data and digital ecosystems, to finally go, now we're acknowledging that there are things like AI, there are things like, the mishandling of data of youth and also vulnerable communities, and what are we going to do about it? Provide more transparency and enforcement.
All right, Katina Michael, always good to talk to you. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Nick.
It's Dr. Katina Michael, UAW, here at ABC Illawarra. Nick Ryan.